It has been quite the few days for internet censorship issues, and a lot of this seems to have passed people by, unfortunately. You know, we should try and stay aware of this, aware of the things that are going on, and it's a bit of a problem when you don't, because otherwise it just kind of creeps up on you, and before you know it, you can't say anything anywhere online. So it's worth a little recap, I think, of what has been happening on Twitter, what has been happening on Tumblr, and what has been happening on Amazon, because these are all relatively important choke points on the internet where censorship can cause a really big issue. I guess we can probably start with Twitter. Now, Twitter's been one of the big sort of battlegrounds around internet censorship for a while now, and it's now progressed to the point where they're hiding tweets, for you. They are making lists of terms and words and things that you otherwise won't see, and they're sort of delisting, not showing low quality tweets, whatever the hell that might mean. No one's entirely sure what the word lists and so on are, but cunt seems to be on there. But we've been arguing that this was a supremely bad idea for some time, because censorship is a crude instrument. I've certainly always argued that it's much better to give people tools. If you don't want to see the word cunt, you can always put it in your mute list, and then you will never have to see a cunt ever again in your life, and that will be an end to it so far as Twitter's concerned. But no, apparently, Big Brother, or Big Sister perhaps in this case, has to step in and make sure you don't see anything that might trigger you. And obviously there have been side effects to this. We've seen now that apparently the word queer appears on some of these lists somewhere, so that people's tweets and so on that incorporate the word queer are not showing up. Why? Corporate friendliness? Maybe the fact that queer is still some places used as an insult? But this is exactly what we said would happen. This is the censorship, the internet censorship equivalent of Trump dropping that big bomb. You didn't need to use such a big bomb, it was just kind of showing off, and it inevitably causes collateral damage. So, what did you think was going to happen when you argued for mass internet censorship? Did you think your precious little causes were not going to be affected? How thick are you?
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you. And when did I tell you? A long time ago. And what did I say will happen when I told you? Exactly what just happened.
Meanwhile, on Tumblr, it may seem odd, given that Tumblr is kind of like the Uruk-hai spawning ground, only for social justice warriors. But Tumblr has been one of the very few places online that hasn't yet really succumbed to internet censorship. As much as it is awash with social justice nonsense, a billion genders, all the rest of the trash that we make fun of so much of the time, as much as it's full of that grist to our mill, it is also absolutely awash with pornography. It's full to the rafters with it. It's stacked high with porn and erotica and weirdness, and that's one of the great things about Tumblr. It hasn't given a shit. Now, back in 2013, they did try to bring in some censorship. Certain Tumblr blogs got delisted and couldn't be searched so easily, and so forth. And there was a great uproar from the community and a big pushback onto that, and they backed away from doing it, with only some very, very sort of scaled down reforms and changes to search functions and visibility and so on. But now they're talking about bringing that back again. So if you have an adult blog on Tumblr, it's likely that it's now going to be deep-sixed. It's going to be wiped away. It's going to be memory holed from search functions. Unless people know where to go and look for your Tumblr full of filth, they are not going to be able to. Okay, so what? Well, Tumblr is one of the few hosts that really allows you to host adult content. So if you have an adult business, if you're a cam girl or an erotica writer or a porn historian or whatever else you might be, you know, or even if you just like a bit of a fap now and again, you know, and you like to store your porn on there and share it with other people, you're going to be shit out of luck. People aren't going to be able to find you, you're not going to be able to build an audience, it's just not going to happen, and all that wonderful searchable Tumblr porn is not going to be available anymore, unless there's a similar rebellion this time around. But sooner or later they are going to push this kind of thing through, and Tumblr, like everywhere else, is likely to succumb. Why is this a big deal? Because a lot of people who produce adult content aren't necessarily, you know, technically competent, you know, in the way that you'd need to be to set up your own site, to deal with payment processes and whatever else. And most sort of intermediary third-party sort of hosts now will not allow adult content of really any kind. WordPress, no. Blogger used to, won't anymore. You know, and it's the same basically across the board. Tumblr was the one place you could go, and now you really can't. So, or at least it looks like you won't be able to for much longer. So that's an issue. Maybe there's a niche in the market for someone who will actually host adult content. But you know, I thought maybe Minds would be that, but apparently there's some resistance over on Minds to allowing, you know, pornography users and so on to migrate over there. I think that's a huge mistake. I think they can make a lot of money, especially with their monetization system, but looks like that's not going to happen. So this is an issue. If you have a Tumblr blog, if you like filth, if you're an erotica writer or whatever who uses Tumblr to promote your work, now's the time to kick up a bit of a fuss. And finally we come on to Amazon. Now Amazon has been having some increasing censorship issues for a while. Some of the more bizarre or extreme erotica, or not even that extreme to be honest, has been being delisted from searches, you know, not showing up at the front. You know, you have to be really specific if you're looking for a particular, you know, erotica book or whatever. You know, it's not showing up so much in the recommended lists and so on. And this has been going on for a while. And even though erotica authors and so on have been kicking up a fuss about this for a while, nobody really cares, or at least even if they do care, they seem to be a little bit too embarrassed to stick up for, no pun intended, to stick up for porn for whatever reason, and that's been a problem. But this censorship is now kind of creeping into other areas. Matt Shaw, he does a lot of different writing. He's a local lad from Southampton. He writes kind of extreme horror as some of what he does, and he's had some books actually removed. Other horror authors in the kind of bizarro and extreme kind of end of the horror market are also being affected in this way. So yeah, that's creeping. You know, we often say that pornography and adult content is the canary in the coal mine when it comes to censorship. You know, that's where it starts and then it moves on. So yeah, that's your warning that this is about to happen, and that certainly seems to be the case here. So similar to the way the adpocalypse has hit a lot of people on YouTube, Mr. Shaw is having to change his way of doing things to concentrate and fixate much more on putting stuff out through Patreon. But how long that's going to let people do this, that remains to be seen too. So basically on all fronts we're seeing this kind of creep of censorship beyond areas in which people are unwilling to stick up for it, and gradually moving into other areas. And we need to resist this stuff, or we need to find alternative platforms, but the odds are really stacked against you for doing that. In my opinion, there is no reason why mainstream outlets, mainstream hosts and so on, there's no reason why they should censor this. You know, we have filtering tools, we have ways of doing this without actively attacking people for making this kind of stuff. The answer to all of this is to give the consumer, to give the viewer, to give the participant in social media the tools to opt into if they don't want to see certain things. And maybe as this stuff starts to affect people beyond the fringes, we'll finally get some kind of pushback. But I'm not holding my breath. Zang.